My daughter, married far away, has been acting strange lately. She happily announced her pregnancy, then just as happily terminated it, saying they wanted more time as a couple. She excitedly said she'd be home for the spring festival, then just as excitedly said she wouldn't, unable to bear being apart from her husband. She always smiles so happily. But I noticed, in the video calls, her legs never move. 1. My daughter, Lily, looked radiant when she told me she wouldn't be coming home for the spring festival. She said her husband, Walter, had to work over the holidays and was clinging to her. She couldn't bear to leave him alone, so she wouldn't be visiting her family this year. Her husband, Walter, gave me an apologetic, honest-looking smile in the video. I chuckled, young people, work comes first, I understand. My smile was calm and collected. Walter visibly relaxed. He didn't know my palms were sweating. In the video, my daughter looked radiant. Beautiful clothes, perfect makeup, all proof she had a loving husband taking care of her. But I saw it, my lively, active daughter, her legs remained perfectly still throughout the entire video call. 2. When I mentioned going to Seaside City for the spring festival, my son, Ryan, laughed, Mom, are you worried about Walter mistreating Lily? Every man in the world could be a bad egg, except for Walter. No wonder Ryan said that. Walter seemed incredibly honest and reliable. When Lily announced she wanted to marry Walter and move to Seaside City after graduation, I was completely against it. But Walter cried his eyes out and knelt before me twice, begging me for my blessing. That only made me more reluctant to let my daughter marry him. A man who kneels to get what he wants is likely to be even crueler than most when he turns nasty. Lily was my precious little darling, raised with the utmost care. What if she suffered in silence where I couldn't see? But my daughter was completely overwhelmed by his 2 acts of kneeling and insisted on marrying him. She said, Mom, I promise I'll be happy. Just give me your blessing. Lily has been married for almost a year. She keeps telling me she's happy. 3. Ryan kept laughing at me for being a worrywart. I said, I just miss your sister. She had a miscarriage, and she didn't even let me visit. Ryan scratched his head. That's true. It's been a while since we saw Lily. There's no one to argue with anymore. Let's go together. Ryan was an orphan Lily took in, so he and his sister are particularly close. We didn't tell Lily we were coming to Seaside City. Ryan and I stayed at a hotel near their apartment complex. Early in the morning, I sat wrapped up tightly on a bench downstairs. When it was time for work, Lily didn't appear, and Walter left alone. When it was time to come home from work, Lily still didn't appear, and Walter came back alone. I sent Lily a message asking what she was doing. She said she was tired after a long day at work, Walter was taking her out for steak, and she couldn't talk much. I just sat on that bench. I had imagined all sorts of evil things, but none of them prepared me for the excruciating pain of what happened next. A furious shout suddenly exploded overhead, You stinking bitch. Who were you trying to pick up today? 2 passers-by looked up, stopped, and started chatting. They must be Lily's neighbors, used to this sort of thing. The second floor is beating his wife again. Tisk, TSK, it's so sad. Such a good wife, beaten every day. Last time both her legs were broken, I don't know if they've healed yet. I struggled to control my trembling lips and asked, her legs were broken? That's so serious. Why doesn't she call the police? Who would dare call the police? That man said if she called the police, he'd wipe out her whole family. His family has some influence, who would dare to mess with them? Doesn't she fight back? She does, but it's awful. She jumped from the second floor, and lost the baby she was carrying. It's a pity the poor woman doesn't have any family around. That man's whole family is awful, old and young, bullying her together. Why are they bullying her? I asked in a trembling voice. Oh, I heard it was because his father tried to take advantage of her, and she refused. After his mother and husband found out, his father insisted she was the one seducing him. The whole family abuses her. The neighbors spoke frankly, with a hint of anger. I tasted blood in my mouth. Listening to the unbearable insults from upstairs, I dialed Lily's number. My precious darling, Mom is here to save you. For the torment you've suffered, I'll make them pay 100-fold. 4. Upstairs, there had only been the man's roaring. Lily, who hadn't spoken up until now, suddenly cried out, It's my mom's call. Let me answer the phone before you beat me again. Don't let her suspect anything. What if she suspects something? She's just a weakling, what good is she? You bitch-bred bitch, did you two go selling yourselves together? I could hear every word clearly. Every word came from the mouth of the man who always looked so honest and reliable. The moment the call connected, I desperately wanted to ask my little darling if she was in pain. But in the receiver, Lily was smiling as she said, Mom, why are you calling? If you have something to say it quickly. Walter is cutting steak for me. I gritted my teeth and said, Okay. Then enjoy your meal. Walter suddenly said, "Mom, why does your voice sound a little off?" I said, "I just miss Lily a little." Walter said, "Mom, I'm sorry. As soon as this project is over, I'll take Lily to see you." He was trying to appease me. Looks like he's scared. His family is well known and respected. Although they look down on us powerless people at heart, I, as his mother-in-law, have never done anything disrespectful, and he doesn't dare to openly break ties with me. I pretended to know nothing inside. "It's good that you're good to Lily, then I can rest easy." Unlike Lily's father. Domestic violence, cheating, and he laughed at me for being a weakling and not being able to do anything about it. I didn't want Lily to be a child without a father, so I kept enduring it. In the end, I still couldn't bear it. Walter stammered, couldn't bear it? WH, what do you mean? You killed Lily's father?" I gave a strange laugh. "If you can't endure it, then there's no need to endure it anymore." In a fit of anger, I cut off his lower half and chopped off his upper half. He usually looked so fierce, but he lay at my feet like a headless dead dog. Th. Then how, weren't you, not sentenced to death?" Walter was trembling, his words barely forming a coherent sentence. "Coward. Scared already?" I feigned nonchalance. "Oh, I have a mental illness. Intermittent. It was triggered by his father, so I don't have to take any responsibility. But don't worry, Mom is all better now." Good that you're better. Then Mom, I'll hang up now. Lily is eager to eat her steak." I smiled and said, "Okay." Her father used to like cutting steak for me too. But his knife skills were never as good as mine. Upstairs, it finally fell silent. 5. It was snowing. "My precious little darling, at least on this snowy night, you won't be beaten, right?" I sat on the bench until dawn. I felt more heartbroken than ever, and I hated myself more than ever. When my daughter left, I said harsh words in anger. "If you're not happy, don't come back to me." "But my precious little darling, are you really not coming back to Mom? Don't you know that in this world, you're more important than Mom's life?" When I found out I couldn't have children, I felt utterly hopeless and thought I'd just drift through life. Until I met you. You were so small, lying in the swaddling clothes, facing the cold wind in the dark alley, smiling at me. You were the brightest sunshine in my life. And someone dares to humiliate you? Then he truly deserves to die. Ryan found me and asked why I wouldn't let him contact his sister and brother-in-law, why I didn't go back to the hotel. I told him, "Ryan, if Mom is gone, remember to protect your sister. Do you remember how your sister, to protect you, grabbed a stick and fought a group of men? It's not that she wasn't afraid, it's that she loved you more. Mom, you know Lily is so tough, who would dare bully her? She's more likely to protect me." I sighed. "She's married far away now, lost her confidence. And you and I are her weaknesses. When someone has their weaknesses held against them, they lose their courage." Ryan looked at me questioningly. I said, "Let's go back." Back at the hotel, I took a shower. I knew this was the last moment of pure cleanliness in my life. 6. The next morning, I went to my daughter's apartment building again. The cold wind held. Snow fell heavily. Everything was white. I remembered when Lily first saw snow, she was so excited that she jumped and laughed. She rolled in the snow, saying she wanted to marry someone and live somewhere with snow. Her wish came true. But I regretted not reminding her that what lies beneath the white snow is often filthy garbage and foul earth. The more sacred and beautiful the snow looks when it falls, the more filthy it becomes when it melts. She was too kind, and I couldn't bear to tell her about the dangers of the world. The sky wasn't fully light yet, the coldest time of the northern winter. Lily's in-laws appeared. They hurried upstairs. Their well-maintained faces held a hidden sinister look. After a while, the shouting started again upstairs. "You bitch. You little slut. You're the daughter of a murderer, what are you pretending to be virtuous for?" That was Walter's father's voice. "You fucking dared to lie to me, you're the daughter of a murderer, you're a psycho." That was Walter's voice. "I knew she wasn't a good thing, but you two were bewitched." That was Walter's mother's voice. But these were the people who, a year ago, traveled thousands of miles to my house to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage. They were so polite and refined, their every word and action showing good breeding. His mother gently held my hand and said, "Lily's mom, I don't have a daughter, and I've always wanted a little sweetheart. I will definitely treat Lily like my own daughter. If Walter dares to bully her, I'll be the first one to not spare him." I coldly asked, "How will you not spare him?" Their whole family was stunned. They had never thought I would ask that, and they never intended to not spare their son. But I quietly waited for their answer. After a long time, his mother said that if her son did wrong, they would let me beat and scold him. I smiled and said, "Let me kill him, cut him up, and leave him childless." In their hearts, that was just a harsh statement. But in my heart, it was a promise. So, my precious little darling, my little Lily, you must remember to rely on Mom. Mom will always, always protect you. 7. Upstairs was a scene of chaos again. Two neighbors who went out to buy soy milk and fried dough sticks looked up and then shook their heads. It seemed they were used to it. My precious little darling, my little Lily, how much abuse have you suffered? That the neighbors are so used to hearing it? How could you still smile in front of me? When you jumped from the second floor, did you want to die or to escape? When the baby was gone, were you in pain? Remembering your joy when you told me you were pregnant, did you think that pregnancy could free you from abuse? Yesterday I heard the neighbor say that when the poor wife on the second floor was first pregnant, her husband treated her a little better. But after her father-in-law came to deliver chicken once, her husband started beating her again. And he beat her especially hard, with increased intensity. This is a high-end neighborhood, and the residents seem very civilized. But almost everyone in the neighborhood has heard his roar, "You stinking bitch, what should I call the child in your belly, brother or son?" Some neighbors who couldn't stand it any longer anonymously called the police. But when the police came, the poor wife didn't dare say anything. I feel that the little wife has been PUA'd by her husband's family. Upstairs, there were sounds of cursing mixed with the sound of things breaking, sharp and piercing. My heart hurts so much. It hurts so much that I can't breathe. I stared blankly at the window, thinking, good. What a wonderful family. I'll show some kindness and let you all set off together, family reunion, before the spring festival. 8. From beginning to end, my precious little darling didn't make a sound. I really want to hug her now, to ask her if she's afraid. But the time isn't quite right yet. The flight to a city is in a while. But don't be afraid, my good daughter. Just bear with it a little longer. Mom's New Year's gift for them is about to arrive. I saw the delivery man has gone upstairs. They should have received it now, because the insults suddenly stopped. Then screams of terror came from upstairs. That sound is music to my ears. Scream a little more while you can. You may not have a chance to scream later. 9. I pulled out my phone and dialed my daughter's number, pretending to be casual. Lily, Mom sent you a dog's head. Take a look at this dog's head. Does it look familiar? It's the dog that bit you in high school. It's my fault for letting it live this long. It's almost the new year, and that kind of vicious dog doesn't deserve to celebrate, so I slaughtered it. Dog head meat is super delicious. You can't just leave the good stuff to your husband. Remember to show your respect to your in-laws. I knew they would put the call on speaker, so I spoke calmly. For the first time, I heard my precious darling's voice, "Mom, thank you." And, "Stop worrying about me, I'm fine. Don't come." I said, "Okay," and calmly hung up. Lily knew I was coming. Kind-hearted, she was still worried about me, so she subtly advised me not to come. She must have guessed I was coming when I mentioned her father. She's a child I picked up. There was no father in her life. The three of us struggled with all our might for so many years to live a decent life. But the Walter family ruined it all in less than a year. Snow fell gently. I sat on the bench, quietly reaching out my hand. The snowflakes silently melted in my palm, as if they had never existed. Some people in this world simply shouldn't exist. 10. After a while, Walter and his parents hurried out with briefcases, looking like they were rushing to work. Their faces were terrified and solemn. I glanced at my watch. The flight to a city was in 2 hours. I waited another hour before going upstairs. I rang the doorbell, but no one answered for a long time. I knew my daughter was inside. I called my daughter again. Walter answered. He pretended to be surprised and said, "Mom, I accidentally took Lily's phone." I said, "It's okay, it's not something important. I just forgot to tell her not to drink tea after eating dog meat." Walter said, "Okay, Mom, I'll tell her later." Hanging up, I suddenly became anxious. They were preventing Lily from contacting me alone at all costs. It seemed Lily's situation was worse than I imagined. I had Ryan find a locksmith to come and open the door at a high price. One who could open the door in a minute. Because I saw a camera installed by the Walter family at Lily's door from a distance. The Walter family would be back from work in half an hour at the earliest. So I had at most half an hour to take my daughter away. 11. The locksmith left after opening the door. I opened the door and a stench filled the air. I shouted, "Lily? Lily? Mom is here." Suddenly, a suppressed crying sound came from a room. "Mom, go. If you stay any longer, you won't be able to escape either." I ran towards the sound. The door was locked and couldn't be opened. I said to Ryan, "Kick it down." The 20-year-old young man kicked the wooden door open with 2 kicks. The scene before me made my blood boil. Lily was sitting on the floor, her feet chained tightly to the bed leg with a heavy iron chain. Within her reach were a bottle of water and a piece of bread. There were also Lily's urine and feces on the floor. Lily looked at me anxiously and said, "Mom, run. This family is crazy." There are cameras all over the room. This city is their territory. I rushed over and hugged her, comforting her. Daughter, don't worry. When it comes to being crazy, who can compare to Mom? The iron chain was very strong. The locksmith had just left not far and was called back. He was stunned by the tragic situation before him. He trembled as he opened the lock. Actually, I could open the lock myself. I could lift the bed leg up. But I needed more witnesses. Ryan cried and shouted, Sister, sister. After shouting twice, he rushed into the kitchen to find a knife, his eyes red as he howled, I'm going to chop up those 3 dog bastards. I calmly grabbed him and said, that would be too easy for them. Listen to Mom, go find the surveillance footage and copy it out. My son majored in computer science. His screams soon came from the study. The computer not only had evidence of Lily's abuse, but also more unknown things. This is great. I had been searching high and low and unexpectedly found it so easily. It seems that heaven is helping us. 12. The car I hired had also arrived downstairs. I told Ryan to take his sister away immediately. They were still worried about me and refused to leave first. I laughed and said, have you forgotten what Mom used to do? Trust Mom. I don't even need to leave this house to take care of them. I used to be the most famous club manager in a city. I've encountered both the underworld and the upper class, and I know how to handle them all. It was for them that I left the club, cultivated my mind, and became a proper mother. And today, for them, I'm going to return to my old ways. Ryan carried his sister away. I found a hammer, smashed open the wedding photo frame, and carefully tore off Lily's half. The expensive things in the room looked extremely unpleasant, so I helped them smash a few of them with the hammer. Feeling a little tired, I sat down on the sofa to rest. Let them smash the rest themselves. Just as I sat down, the Walter family rushed in. Seeing this scene, they knew that the evil they had committed couldn't be hidden. But they didn't have a bit of regret or fear. Walter's mother cursed, what kind of sin did we commit? Meeting a crazy in-law? Can we even celebrate the new year? She was still thinking about celebrating the new year? I said indifferently, that's a good question. The new year is for people. With you people who are worse than pigs and dogs, do you deserve to celebrate the new year? The Walter family rushed at me together, wanting to attack. I acted like I was ready to die. Come on, I have heart disease. Hurry up and hit me. The 3 of them were stunned for a moment. They whispered to each other, get out of here, or we'll call the police. TSK, TSK, even people with status have times when they're afraid to act recklessly. The ruthless fear those who don't value their lives. They were still worried if I really died in their house. Seeing that I didn't move, they confidently called the police. But they didn't know that I wanted to find the police too. There's no better witness than the police to prove that everything I've done is legal. When the police arrived, confirmed that I was the one who damaged the property, they were going to take me away. I sat on the sofa and didn't move, instead asking the police, I'm helping my daughter's family renovate, what grounds do you have to take me away? Walter said, when did we ever say we wanted to renovate? You're just spouting nonsense. The police officer said, Ms. Lee, could you come with us? I smiled easily and said slowly, son-in-law, are you sure you don't want to renovate? In the Red Leaves folder on the E-Drive, there are your family's renovation documents. With each word I said, Walter's face changed. When I said red leaves, his and his father's expressions both changed. Walter immediately said to the police, I'm sorry, officer, I really got it wrong. My wife must have told my mother-in-law about the renovation. I didn't understand. I said, it's not enough to say what's right and wrong with just words, is it? Good son-in-law, if it's really renovation, then smash all the appliances and furniture in this room clean, right? Otherwise, it seems like you're playing with the officers. Walter blushed but didn't move. I said in a sarcastic tone, $88,888 million, $66,666 million. So the in-laws like the lucky numbers of that beautiful country. These were all the amounts of bribes Walter had recorded from his own father. Walter and his father's eyes widened in fury. Guiltily, they both picked up tools and started smashing. His mother was crying and wailing beside them. The police officer watched for a while and left. I was still sitting on the sofa. The father and son didn't dare to move. His ignorant mother rushed over to hit me. I looked at her with infinite pity and said to the 2 men, what should I do? Do you want me to do it? Walter quickly went to stop his mother. How could he stop her? His mother was yelling like a madwoman, wanting to tear me apart. Walter's father got anxious and slapped her. Her well-maintained, delicate face immediately swelled up. His mother covered her face and was stunned. You hit me? You hit me for that bitch? You're blinded by the younger one, did you even sleep with her mother? His mother seemed to be a little incoherent. Sending her to a mental hospital wouldn't be wrong. 13. I glanced at Walter's father. An old man who had gained power and was used to being flattered. He was greasy, but still self-confidently thought he was charming, a disgusting sight. I spat on his face and said to his mother, "Him? He wants to sleep with me? He's not even as good as a dog." His father's face was red and he didn't dare to say a word. Red leaves was his Achilles heel. It was the Achilles heel that could make him lose his position and go to prison. But his wife didn't know. She was still covering her face and crying miserably. I shouted, "Shut up. It's annoying to listen to. Only you treat him like a treasure. Are you attracted to his age? His roughness? Or the fact that he doesn't shower? You grew up in the military compound, how could you be controlled by such a nouveau riche? It's really embarrassing." His mother was stunned by my scolding. After all the fuss, Walter was the first to come back to his senses. He ran to check on the room where Lily was locked up. Lily was gone, and he was shocked. Lily was the only weakness this family could use to threaten me. The father and son exchanged glances. His father quickly made a phone call, looking for someone to stop Lily from leaving. Unfortunately, Lily left by plane. The plane was a means of transportation that the Walter family couldn't stop in time or had the ability to stop. I instructed Ryan that after arriving at the airport, if the route to a city was not feasible, no matter what route, he had to take a flight away from S City as soon as possible, and then transfer to a city. I had already arranged everything at the hospital in a city. After receiving a few calls, Walter's father deflated like a punctured balloon. He knew he couldn't control my daughter anymore. Seeing his deflated look, I couldn't help but be generous and give him some air. "Director Walter, you didn't expect your son to know about red leaves, did you?" Walter heard this and suddenly seemed to realize something. He raised his hand and slapped Walter hard, saying, "You unfilial son. You dare to plot against your own father?" 14. One slap didn't seem enough to vent his anger, so he started beating and kicking him. Blood flowed from Walter's nose. Walter's mother suddenly pounced over and said, "Are you crazy? Beating your son to death?" Walter's father kicked his mother away and said, "Only a venomous person like you could raise such an ungrateful wretch." His mother fell to the ground, looking confused. Walter saw his mother being kicked and his anger flared up. He cursed, "You old hag, you still have the nerve to scold my mom? You developed because of my maternal grandfather's resources, but you're secretly messing around behind my mom's back. And transferring money to your mistress." Walter's father didn't hold back, retorting, "You're just a jackal, what are you pretending to be filial for? You knew about red leaves a long time ago, but you didn't tell your mom. Isn't it just so you could control me at a critical moment? Isn't it just so you can grab my weaknesses and get more benefits?" Walter's mother suddenly understood. She jumped up from the ground like a fierce tiger and pounced on Walter's father. Scratching, tearing, using all the tricks of a shrew. The scene was lively. They were completely unaware that this was already being broadcast live. Before moving his sister away, Ryan had cut off the surveillance. So the Walter family knew I was coming, but they didn't see me send my daughter away. They thought we had destroyed the surveillance, but they didn't know that after Lily left, the surveillance was connected to live streaming. Walter's father's sensitive identity, mistress, nouveau riche, transferring huge amounts of money, domestic violence and abuse. With so many buffs stacked, millions of people instantly poured into the live stream. In a live stream without a streamer, the three people tearing each other apart were the main actors. The comments were all excited and righteous. "It's a pity this punch was a little off, the father's eyes are bloodshot, but his nose is still intact. Women don't give way to men. This female warrior is indeed very powerful. But she clearly lacks combat experience. Her scolding isn't deep enough, and she only knows how to scratch faces and pull hair, her methods are too simple. At this time, shouldn't she cut off the Janen's tools? I'm worried for her. Oh my god, isn't that Director Walter's family? Gosh, I really can't tell that Mrs. Walter, who loves wearing cheongsams and is addicted to flower arrangement, is so fierce. Young Director Walter is also worthy of his tiger father, TSK, the punches are hitting the flesh. Hey, who says Lianpa is too old? Look at this body fed with cordyceps guaran lao dang yi zhuang, still strong in old age. Even fighting with his son, he's not inferior. The live stream was really lively. The information dug up by the audience was more than I knew. I picked up my tea and slowly sipped it in a corner out of the camera's view. The tea is good, the show is good, but it's not enough. 15. When my son was looking through Walter's computer records, he found that he had meticulously recorded every asset his father gave to his mistress. From lipsticks and cosmetics to customized luxury brand bags, and even 2 large apartments and a villa. His father's image of integrity was just a carefully constructed persona. His sanctimonious face had a heart full of debauchery and corruption. And his mother, who had suffered from his father's cold violence for years, had secretly kept a young male model. The photos were truly intimate. I really wondered what Walter felt when he saw those photos as a son. Seeing them collapse to the ground exhausted, I couldn't help but give them some more emotional stimulation. The male models at Club G are really handsome. Taking on 10 at once, like wolves and tigers, they are especially easy to satisfy, right? I didn't speak loudly. But Walter and his mother's faces suddenly turned pale. Walter's father didn't understand what I meant. What a fucking idiot. I sent a series of photos to his phone. The intermission was about to end, and the battle immediately started. Soon, it entered a white-hot state. I was right, how could people give up so easily and not fight? They still needed the spirit of struggle. They fought so selflessly that they forgot my existence. I had to remind them of my presence. Hey, are you guys renovating or not? If not, I'm leaving. The three of them, ragged and bruised, suddenly stopped. Then, in unison, they said, "You're the one who did this?" I smiled and said, "When dogs bite dogs, do you blame a passerby for meddling? Who am I? How could I move you monsters?" His mother pounced over again, wanting to tear me apart. TSK, did she really think I was a manager for nothing? When it came to words or weapons, she was no match for me. I grabbed her curly hair and slapped her wildly. While slapping her, I asked, "Do you remember what you said at my house back then? Whoever bullies my daughter, let them be beaten and scolded. Am I wrong to hit you?" The two men wanted to pull me away. I asked, "Have you two forgotten about the lucky numbers? You two should quickly do something yourselves, don't bother me to do it. If I have to do it, what I said back then was to let me kill and dismember." This father and son had long disliked each other. The father wanted to insult his daughter-in-law, and the son plotted to control his father. With the fig leaf torn off, where was there any father-son relationship? I gave them a reason, and the two immediately started fighting each other. Their attacks were all fatal, aiming at each other's lower body. They were really going for a childless and grandchildless ending. At this time, Walter's father's phone rang. "Brother, what's going on at your house? It's on the hot topics, turn off the surveillance quickly." His father's face instantly turned liver-colored. He immediately understood that his whole family was socially dead, completely dead. The social value he had worked for all his life was zeroed out, becoming negative. After turning off the surveillance, his face twisted. It seemed he wanted to kill me. 3 against 1, it looked like I had no chance of winning. 16. Walter's father had Walter control me and went back into the kitchen to get a knife. But when he came out with the knife, the first thing he saw was his wife, who had lost her mind from the shock. She screamed and ran to the balcony, shouting for help. Seeing that things were about to be exposed, Walter's father quickly pounced over, desperately covering her mouth, trying to drag her back into the house. But his mother's hands gripped the balcony railing tightly, refusing to let go. In desperation, his father grabbed her head and slammed it against the wall. Thick blood instantly covered her well-maintained face. She completely passed out. Her father couldn't spare anyone to watch over her. Looking around, he dragged her into the room where Lily had been locked up and chained her to the foot of the bed. I glanced at the body lying on the ground like a dead dog, wondering if she had thought she would end up like this when she harmed others. Her father went back to pick up the knife. The dog head I sent them had fallen from the tea table during the conflict and rolled to my feet. I calmly smiled and asked Walter, "Good son-in-law, do you think this dog died with its eyes open? People and dogs are different, you have to learn to choose." Walter's father returned and held the knife against me. "Hand over all the information you got. Otherwise, I'll take your life. Whether I give you the information or not, you won't let me go, will you? You're not afraid of legal punishment if you kill me. Ha ha ha, the law is just a tool for the strong. I'll say you broke into my house to attack me, and I was acting in self-defense, who would dare say it wasn't? But if you die, you can't take the information with you, and the problem will be solved." As he spoke, he stabbed at me. I dodged to the side, and the blade grazed my side. Blood stained my winter clothes red. He tried to stab me again, but looked down and saw a knife point piercing his chest. He looked back in surprise and saw the handle of the knife in the hands of his own son, Walter. I said lightly, "The law has always been a tool for the wise, not a tool for demons." Walter looked at me and stammered, "I was acting bravely." His father suddenly understood. Unfortunately, he understood too late. Before he fell, he used all his strength to say 2 words, "Idiot." He and the dog's head lay side by side, both with their eyes wide open. The unseeing look was exactly the same as the dog's. 17. The reason why Walter turned against his own father and stabbed him to death was because I said 3 sentences when his father went to get the knife. "Your father's crimes are confirmed, if he doesn't die, your whole family will be finished. If you don't try to make amends, even if you don't get the death penalty, you'll get life imprisonment. If your father kills me, you saving me is a heroic act, and counts as a major contribution." 18. Walter was busy calling the police, busy proclaiming that he was acting bravely. He didn't notice at all that I had gone to his mother. His mother had already woken up at this time. Seeing me, a light flashed in her eyes. I knew that she wasn't someone who could easily go crazy. It was just that she wanted to escape criminal responsibility when disaster struck. She was thinking too highly of herself. I pretended to be talking to myself, so she's really crazy. But to make people believe you're crazy, nothing is better than daring to eat sh*t. The police would arrive soon. A large group of people swarmed in. After all, there was a death, and the deceased was someone with status, so the police station didn't dare to neglect it. Walter, as the caller, calmly led the police into the door. He even had a hint of smugness. The police took his statement and then asked where the victim was. It was then that Walter realized I was gone. The police rushed into the room I was in, and the look in the police's eyes suddenly changed when they looked at Walter. In the dark room, 2 women were lying down. Their foreheads were bleeding, and one leg each was chained to the bed leg. One had feces on her mouth, which was his mother. One had a wound to her abdomen, which was his mother-in-law. The police asked me what happened. I choked up, unable to speak. Here, I had a completely different version from Walter. I said I missed my daughter who married far away and came to see her. But I didn't expect the son-in-law's family to be imprisoning perverts. My daughter was imprisoned, abused, and seriously injured by them. I asked them for an explanation, but I was imprisoned by them, and they threatened to kill me if I resisted. I didn't give in, and they attacked me with knives. During the conflict, Walter's father stabbed me, and Walter accidentally killed his father. Seeing that I was injured, Walter didn't let me go. He smashed my head against the tea table and chained me to the bed leg. They were so perverted. The locksmith could also prove that this family pervertedly imprisoned and abused my daughter. When the police put handcuffs on Walter, his mother suddenly came to her senses. She desperately shouted that she wasn't crazy, and her son was being wronged. She said that the dead woman was the one who smashed her own head and chained herself to the bed leg. I said, "Can you believe what someone who eats sh*t says?" Walter argued that the surveillance footage could prove that he didn't attack me, but rather that he saved me. I smiled and said, "That's right, quickly bring up the surveillance footage and take a look." I smiled happily. Because Walter forgot that the surveillance footage that could prove he was telling the truth was personally turned off by him. All the evidence proved that what I said was reasonable. 19. The disciplinary committee's investigation soon had results. Walter's father was found guilty of embezzlement and bribery, and his assets were confiscated as the source of a huge amount of property was unknown. Walter was an accomplice in embezzlement and bribery and was also guilty of intentional assault and intentional homicide, and was sentenced to death with multiple crimes combined. And Walter's mother, as she wished, entered the mental hospital. She thought she could use connections to get out of the hospital early, but how could I give her a chance? I turned this mental hospital into a live streaming hotspot. Their family didn't dare to take action to save her rashly for a while. I seized the time to secretly find people to take care of her many times. The oath of killing and dismembering that I said at the beginning, I didn't do physically, but I still fulfilled it spiritually. She really went crazy. And because she was a violent lunatic, she tasted the taste of violence. We filed a civil lawsuit demanding compensation from the perpetrators. The court supported our claim. All of Walter's legal property belonged to my daughter. 20. Back in a city, I went to the hospital to see my daughter as soon as possible. My precious little darling was very strong. The recovery process was extremely painful. She said it was nothing. But what did she do to deserve this suffering? Fortunately, everything was over. On New Year's Eve, with lights on in every house, our family was reunited. I opened a bottle of champagne. My daughter suddenly asked, "Mom, is Aunt Redleaf coming?" "What did you say?" I asked. The sound of the champagne popping overwhelmed my daughter's words. "It's nothing," my daughter said. It was good that I didn't have to answer. My daughter was still the kind daughter. I was still a well-behaved mother.